Everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Millions Challenge. This is episode 5 as far as I'm aware, if I can remember correctly. It's been a little while since I've done it. However, I do have a good excuse, and that excuse is that I moved house. And this is my new flat that I'm in now in Sevenoaks, which is a nice little town just outside London. London was a little bit too much for me, but we'll talk about that in the later part of the video. In this video, I'm going to talk about my current journey, how it's been going for the last few weeks since we last had an episode on Millions Challenge, talking about a new mentor that I've got, gearing up for Christmas, sales, new things we got in the pipeline, moving house, and yeah, just how things have been pretty tough recently, and the fact that business is not as easy as one would like it to be sometimes, but that's part of the journey. So without further ado, my name's Hayden. This is Millions Challenge. This is episode 5, and welcome to the channel. Welcome to Spotify, YouTube, wherever you're watching this. So let's dive in. So as I said, I've just moved house. So I'm now in this lovely flat that I've just got in Sevenoaks. So that's a little town, quaint little town outside London. And the reason that I moved outside of London was because it was pretty busy for me. It wasn't the type of place that I wanted to live for a long time. The reason I did it was because my girlfriend wanted to live there, and she had moved down from Edinburgh to be with me when we sort of fell in love, if you like, to put it that way. And I wanted to commit to her, so I moved to London. But I knew deep down London probably wasn't the right place for me. But once again, I was open to trying stuff and open in the relationship to try stuff like moving house, etc. So I tried it, and lo and behold, I realised it really wasn't for me. And we wanted our own place. We were living in a room in London, which was hard, especially two people living in a room up there. And that wasn't because we couldn't afford to get a flat. It was because we wanted to just give it a go, living together. We thought it would be fun to experience living in a room with other people. But I think a few months was enough. So we had to get our own place here, which is a nice flat, which we've now got. So that's that. But it's been crazy. It's been crazy with the move to the new flat whilst also trying to maintain the business. And, I started the agency, which we'll talk about later, whilst we were moving. And I actually missed an essential meeting of onboarding our first team member because we were moving, because we were so busy. And then also we're gearing up for Christmas, and it's just been crazy. And actually last month and summer slowdown has just been pretty tough. So that's the move out the way. Let's talk about how things have been going. Business is always going pretty good. We got it to a stage now where there's the momentum is growing and it's good. However, recently it's been a little bit tough, and that's because every year summer slowdown happens for our business. Now, I'm not saying that happens for every business in this space, but for our business it does, and it affects it a lot. Like for the last 6-7 weeks, I feel like I've been putting loads of effort into new product launches, expanding the team, etc. And the results I'm getting back are have been less sales, less profit than before that. So psychologically, sometimes that can have an impact because you're putting in more effort than when you were before. And because of things happening outside of our control, i.e. the summer slowdown, etc., things are slowing down with buying from customers over that time. My effort has been going up, so therefore it feels like psychologically I put in more effort and I get less back. But anyway, that's when emotional intelligence and dealing with your emotions really, really comes into play, and that's something that I've had to deal with yet again this year, same as last year, whenever this happens. Now things are really starting to soar again. Sales are up. We've had some other issues, like one of my products got taken down for certain reasons, which was a pretty tough pill to swallow because we had thousands of pounds worth of stock for that product. But it is what it is, and you have to get on with it. And now sales are picking up again, and it's still tough because we're spending a lot of money, tens of thousands, buying for our Christmas stock, and we haven't yet seen the return on that money. So yeah, it's just that time of year where you come out of summer slowdown, then you have to get into Q4 buying, and it can just be slow. But there we go. It's part of business, it's just part of business. It ebbs and flows and ebbs and flows and ebbs and flows. And I try to look at it as a 6 monthly period, a quarterly period, a yearly period even. I got that mixed up, didn't I? All over the place. Rather than just every day. Although that's much easier said than done. And I still find myself slipping back into the everyday sales checking sort of thing. But yeah, so things have been tough, getting a lot better. This business definitely isn't for everyone. Business in general definitely isn't for everyone. I think the biggest thing people struggle with is the ebbs and flows, where it goes up and down sometimes before you get to a period of significant growth and consistency where you've got, tens and tens of staff members. There's always going to be ebbs and flows in the early days, especially before you've got them solid foundations that you're building upon, which we're doing solidly now. Pardon the pun there. So there we go. That's how it's been and that's how it's going. But if I was to progress to the next step, and that's that I've just got myself a new mentor who I'm very, very excited to be working with. He is a top guy. He's a top guy. He does over 100 million in yearly sales of his company. I'm not going to go into too many details because I don't know how many details he wants me to go into. But all I'll say is that he does over 100 million a year. I just went and spent the day with him recently. He ripped apart my current business in a good way, gave me advice on how I can grow it. And all I can say is that next year is going to be some really, really significant, huge growth from the work that I'm going to be putting in with my new mentor. And that's all I'm going to sort of say on that front, because I'm not going to sit here and say, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, blah, 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 blah. Because at the end of the day, who cares about this stuff? It's about the action that you take, isn't it? And that's exactly what I'm doing. Even doing this podcast, I don't get paid for this. You know what I mean? This is just like a side passion thing, if you like. And it was hard for me to do this because I needed to spend the time on the research for my new homework, essentially, if you like, from my new mentor. But I said, look, I committed to this. I'm getting it done. Okay, so here we are. And yeah, it's going to be big. But once again, what I find with business in general, and as I'm growing in business and things are getting more consistent and I'm sort of leveling up in different ways, I find myself now at the stage where there's always another level. And the longer you do it and the longer you stick with it and the longer you push and the longer you get better and better and better, the harder it is to fail. Now, what I mean by that is you get experience at every single level. So I've got tons of experience from when I first started this business, okay? And back then I used to just resell products. And then I started doing other stuff, okay, where I was trying to figure out brand stuff, okay? And then I started doing another level, okay, where I started going to different marketplaces. And now I'm doing another level where I'm going to be selling products exclusively for brands. And I'm doing another level with my own private label products. You know what I mean? So the higher you get in terms of, and this is for any industry, but this is just the outprint of what I've done in my industry. The higher you get, the harder it is to fail, I found, because you can just get knocked down a peg, sure. But you've always got all of this experience that you've already gained from the previous stuff that you could also plug back into at any stage. Okay, so the longer I'm doing this, the more, even though the tough times come, I feel more and more confident because I know that I've got all of this experience, all of this knowledge that I could plug into at any time if ever I needed to really get the business back up and going again, if that makes sense, if ever something happened. So that's a good positive point. But a lot of people just can't be bothered. They just can't be bothered. And I would say most people that end up not figuring business out and making it successful is usually just people just can't be bothered. You know, they and they won't want to admit that either, you know. But what's made me always figure things out if ever I've had hard times is putting in that effort, getting home, working till 12, 1, 2 a.m. in the morning, and just putting in that effort and not letting go until I figured it out. And that's what some people either got or they haven't got. Some people are just not willing to do that and they'd rather go back and get a job. And that's just the truth that I know. Okay. So yeah, I feel like we're really starting to progress now and getting to the certain level where it's going to be a case soon of the next sort of models that I do within this business model, my main e-commerce company, are what I think are going to take me to millions and millions and millions. And then I can just plug in systems, staff members, offices, warehouse into that. I've made it sound easy. It's not going to be easy, right? It's not going to be easy, but it's straightforward, essentially, if you're willing to put in the work. That's what I mean. On top of that, as I said, we launched the agency, and that's good. You know, the agency's slow because, you know, we've got our first client, and the one thing we're not willing to do is lower standards. So that one agency that we've got, that one client that we've got so far for our agency is a pretty big client in terms of, you know, the reputation the brand's got, etc. And we want to make sure we get them amazing results. And I would rather, you know, we've got a staff member as well in that company straight away. So we're not making money on that at the moment because, you know, we've got one client. We're paying for costs, essentially, for now. We could take on more clients straight away now, but we don't want to because we want to keep the standards up and we want to make sure we've got the systems, the processes, the staff trained up, and everyone's really, really, really happy before we start taking on more clients. And that's something that back in the day I never did. Back in the day I would have been like, let's just get 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 clients, which is a lot of people try and do, and then they can't talk the talk. They walk the walk, but they can't talk the talk. Okay, no, they talk the talk, they can't walk the walk. That's the right saying, isn't it? And they overload themselves, and that's what I probably would have used to do. Not to ever like mug anyone off, but just because you assumed all you needed was customers, you know, but you don't. You need solid foundations. You need credibility, and you need to make sure that you're extremely good at what you do before you start trying to get more customers and scaling it up. You know, if your product's bad, then you can do as much marketing in the world. You're not going to have any repeat customers. There's going to be no word of mouth there, and you're making things really hard for yourself. We're trying to focus on getting the product really, really, really good and then scaling it up. So yeah, slow burner, but that's good. Apart from that, it's just, yeah, it's going to, the next 2 or 3 months are going to be interesting because it's, as I say, Q4 buying, Q4 prep, Q4 madness of trying to keep things in stock as much as possible. Doing the mentoring with my new mentor, really pushing things hard with that. Figuring out new ways of doing stuff in this company with his guidance, and hopefully setting myself up really nicely for 2024 so that we can start getting results we didn't think were possible anytime soon. That's the plan. Yeah. And I'm really happy with this new place that we're living in at the moment as well, because it just gives me that mentally, it's given me a lot more freedom there, you know. I mean, we're not ready yet. We haven't got the TV even in here yet, but, well, it's sitting there. I haven't put it together yet. Yeah, but mentally we're sort of much more in our element now, and we can really, really push the business stuff. So yeah, that's exciting. So guys, that was episode 5. I hope you enjoyed that, and I will see you in the next video. Please make sure you follow, share. If you're on Spotify, please follow YouTube. If you're on YouTube, follow Spotify and share it if you possibly can. And I'll see you in the next video. My name's Hayden.